Everything is a culture. Love hurts why I hate.
Yeah, what up? This your boy Alley Cat.
And I'm Twin.
This is the Kultcha.
And right now, today, you know we constantly trying to bridge the gap between the older and the younger. That's what we focusing on today.
Today, and that's what we do. We in the community of Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, New York. We in the bar boutique, black-owned business. You know, you got to support. And today's topic, stemming from last week, is education.
That's right. So we're going to focus on school today. So we're going to do a round trip of, you know, who's your favorite teacher, you know, the history of school, all that good stuff for you today. So let's get it started. As far as like, do you remember your favorite teacher when it comes to our culture?
Honestly, I do.
Okay.
I remember, I had more than one favorite. I had a third grade teacher, Miss Graham. She was kind of rough on us, but she made sure she steered us in the right course. And then I had Miss Goson, I think that was my sixth or seventh grade teacher. God bless her soul, may she rest in peace. She taught us a lot.
Do your favorite teacher relate to the color of the teacher?
Yes,
what color
she was
was
black.
Teacher? What's her background?
Both of them was black. Black,
Wow.
independent, single women.
Right.
I mean, you know, Miss Graham, she had a son. He was in the service. I kind of remember certain things. He came in, did 100 push-ups. You know,
that's good. That's
you
good.
know, and taught us things. But she always stayed on us.
Nah. For me, actually, my first black teacher came when I got to Megas Ever College. Before that, it was just a plethora of white teachers. But for me, it started late when I turned 18. But you know, for the people who did get it before that, that's a good thing. You know, and schools start with that because you got to see somebody similar to yourself. You know what I'm saying, in order to achieve anything. If you could see that teacher in that spot, you could achieve at those same goals, don't you think?
Well, you know, yes, you do, because it's somebody from where you're from.
No doubt.
But 9 times out of 10, a lot of the school systems back then, in that era,
Right.
a lot of teachers was white, and they also always told us we wasn't gonna be shit, and we wasn't shit. I mean, I remember that from a few teachers.
Not from a few, definitely, who you know just go there to pick up the check, you know, just to show up and leave, and not make sure the students succeed. Definitely.
So based on that, I mean, you know, the school system is somewhat related to the military and in jails.
Yeah, so we're going to get to the history of that.
Yes.
But getting back to the teachers, right? When we reflect on, you know, our favorite teachers or teachers in general, right? Teachers must meet students where they're at. So a lot of, you know, black kids, once they get to the school, they may not read at a 4th grade level or a 6th grade level. It's important that the teachers meet the students where they're at, don't you think?
Well, meeting the student where he's at. I mean, if the student fails, then the teacher really fails. It's not the student that fails.
Because the teachers like to stay at that grade. So if a teacher's doing 6th grade, they just like to teach 6th grade material. And a lot of times when, you know, kids get into a certain grade, they need remedial math, remedial reading, and stuff like that. So it's important for the teacher to be more than a teacher, to meet the students where they're at.
Well, it goes back to what I just said. I feel that teacher to student, student to teacher, if a teacher is teaching and the student fails, that teacher then gravitate to that student and then teach that student the way it needs to be taught.
No doubt.
So, you know, that's not the student failing, that's actually the teacher failing. Because the teacher needs to understand that child. And yes, it's 30 children, because back then classrooms was overcrowded
No doubt.
of the sort. And education, you know, and did we really get education? Did we get the education that we need?
Does the teachers really fail you? Who's the first teacher?
The first teacher starts at home.
Definitely.
And, you know, and starting at home will be your parents. That's who should be your first role model.
No, definitely.
Do you agree?
No, I agree with that. It starts at home because when you're born, the first person to hold you in arms is your mother. So that is your first teacher of life, period. You know what I'm saying? So
And nurturer.
No,
Because
definitely.
teachers should be nurturers as well.
Nah, they should be.
They could
should
be any
extend.
place in the world,
Yeah.
but they chose to teach you, and a lot of them don't get paid a lot.
No, they don't. They
Yeah,
don't.
so-
And that's why we're grateful for our teachers, and they need to extend. How about extending outside the school? Because schools extend outside of that building into the environment. Should the teacher take hold of that? Because students may have personal problems when we talk about our favorite teachers.
I mean, teachers should always be caring and concerned. If the child mind is not where it's supposed to be, it's not going to gravitate to the learning process.
No
What's
doubt.
going on?
No doubt.
So I do agree to that.
No, I agree to that too. So let's move on, right? Let's get back to the history, because you mentioned a little bit of it, right? The history of school, the structure of school. What are some of the structures we could talk about today involving schools?
School, I mean, the disciplinary structure. And within that is, you know, the bells, the ringing, the lining up.
That's right.
Standing in order.
That's some of the
staying
military.
in place.
Right.
That's military, and that's also in jail.
Yeah, definitely. Because you
know.
put them in size order, you rank them from tall to small, right? Or when you look at the structure or the militariness of it, the bell ringings when a dog is used to a bell ringing. So when he hear the bell, he used to go running for the food. It's the same thing.
The ringing of the bell, like on a farm.
Yes, definitely. And actually, school, the etymology of it is in Latin. It means shul. It usually means go to hell. So a lot of times they would say, I'm going to hell today, which is school. But back to the history, right?
Wow.
Where did the structure of the school started today, the form of it, the way it looks, where did it come from?
I don't know. You tell me. What's your outlook on it?
Well, first of all, it's a European system, and it have come from modern day Germany, which they used to call Persia back in the day, right? Which they set up a military school because a lot of times when there's that war, a lot of the military people didn't know what they was doing. They wasn't on the same page. So they created today's system type of school back then so everybody could learn and be on the same page when they go to war. So this is where the modern day system come in today.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, well, now school today, you know, they started with charter schools.
Oh, yeah,
And
they got
that's
different
a
types
form,
of schools.
so that all these different types of school, especially in the black community, and you don't know much about it, the charter school is like modern day segregation.
Oh, no, absolutely.
What do you think?
No, absolutely. From the uniforms to the culture differences to even, you know, what you did with demographic or you dealing with color, the separation of that. Yes, it is very segregated and separated.
And uniforms is another part of
what?
Structure of given to society to say this is what you need to wear, this is what you need to do, and this is how you be. So you're not going to be an individual.
No, not at all. But they try to flip it and say what? They try to flip it and say they wear uniforms so nobody won't pick on
you or bully you.
Bully you, right?
And the era I grew up in, when you got bullied on,
right,
you handled your business. Your mother told you, listen, don't come home crying.
Not at all. I mean, even back then with our parents, their main objective when they had children was to make sure they went to school. Today is a little different with school, right? You would go to college, send your kids to college, but you tell them more today to take up a trade school, right? Because you think it's more economic feasible for today's life. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people with bachelor's and associate's degree or master's degrees, they find a hard time getting a job to pay off their loans or their school bills.
Well,
yeah.
And you know, education is free in certain countries.
No, I mean it is. It is.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So
it is.
You know, so
it's not universal.
It's not universal.
No, definitely not.
America has everything to pay for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you know, you have this thing of, you know, education should be free to everybody. That's how I feel.
No doubt.
Because you know, learning it makes us great. You know, but what are we learning is the question. Because we're not learning what affects us on our day-to-day basis. That's how I feel. How do you feel about it?
Definitely it's a European-centric type of point of view. So in history class, you learn about the Hitlers, the Napoleons, the Stalins, you know what I'm saying? And on Black History Month in school, you do little history in February.
Can I ask you a question though? You do a little bit, because you said a little bit. Black History Month.
Right.
We get how many days?
You get 28 days in February.
Wow, 28 days.
Yeah.
But I'm Black 365. I mean, you know.
Especially when the schools is dominated by Black students or colored students or what they call minorities, which we are the majorities. Once it's dominated by that, they should have history that relates to them, right? Because American history in general is a melting pot of history anyway. So if you go back to the Civil War, World War I, World War II, you still see what they call minorities in those wars, fighting on the front lines. So American history is our history. So to read about Hitler, Stalin, and Napoleon and not include all the other races into the history, we know what their agenda is in school, right?
Yeah, the agenda is to keep it covered, keep us hidden, keep us quiet, so we don't know our history.
Definitely.
You know, key point. To stay on course.
No,
and let me give you something on course.
We're going to focus on it.
I want to give you a topic, like what's current and relevant. They have this young man, Lil Nas X, he did a song. They said he's not country enough to be a country singer or be on the country charts. I stand to be corrected, I could be wrong. So now, within all that, he's on the country platform. He has the #1 song in the country, but they say he's not country enough. It took Billy Ray Cyrus to come on board and do the song with him. And now they're very excited to say, I'm country enough. But do you know, and this is something I'm giving off, just giving a little play of what's going on in society today.
Right.
But nobody really knows that the first cowboy in the world, or at least in America, was a black man who herded cattle. I think it was in Texas somewhere.
Actually, it was black slaves used to do horseback riding on the slave farms back then. You know, and they used to compete, and white men used to make them compete against each other on horseback riding. So,
within saying all that, see, we don't get that history.
No, not at all.
So, when they say we not country enough, if you're young and you haven't been taught or cultivated in your household first, and then coming into school, you could be taught and told anything.
No, you're definitely right. That's our culture. Actually, horseback riding started in West Africa. You know what I'm saying? And they act like, horseback riding is a Western civilization thing. You know what I'm saying? And we controlled the Kentucky Derby. Actually, the first winner of the Kentucky Derby was a black man.
So now, within saying that, within history,
right?
You don't know where you came from, you don't know where you're going. So now with the school system, now they have this big thing about charter schools and creating budgets and failing them, flunking them out to keep the budget and keep the money. And it's all about money, and they control their money, and they can do whatever they want in a charter school with their budget.
Right.
Some schools like Achievement First in Brooklyn, New York, they have a system called the STEP system, and don't even tell the parents all about the system. The system was created to do the literacy, and see where the child was and needed help, and wherever the child needed help at, they would strengthen it. So where the child was weak, they would have to strengthen it, and where the child was strong at, they would just keep polishing it. They're using that system to actually fail the children.
No, exactly. I mean, the system wouldn't be used for no other purpose, whether it's public schools, charter schools, or whatever it may be. If the school system is not there specifically to liberate the people, or to free the people, or to help out that community or that environment which it surrounds, it's all sham to me. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So whether we doing mathematics, whether we doing reading, whether we doing chemistry, the word chemic come from the land of Kemet. That's why you study chemistry. If you look up and do the history, if you know your past to know where you're going, you'll realize that is in our DNA. That is in our history. All those subjects are us.
Now, last episode, you said something about maritime amity law.
Yeah.
That has something to do with the schooling as well.
No, I do.
So can you explain that to them?
Maritime amity law actually is the law of water. A lot of people should know that already. And when you're writing on wooden desks, or you're using the number 2 pencil, or there's a teacher writing on the board, have everything to do with the law of water, maritime amity law. That's why she writes on the chalkboard. Back then, the ships used to say all aboard. They still do it today, actually. They say all aboard. That's why you have a backboard in the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? That's why it goes to the bed. Or the teacher writes on the chalkboard. And this is why you use wood and everything, because when you're dealing with school, we're dealing with our roots. We're dealing where we came from. So they always ask you, what's your family tree? Like, where you come from, right? Because you always got to look up the root of a word in school, which have to do with trees and wood. So that's the hidden knowledge behind it.
Oh, wow. See? So it goes so deep.
No, I do.
And I mean,
it do.
There's so many things that we can touch that, we need y'all to chime in. This is the Kultcha podcast. Yes. We take all your questions, and we'll try to find answers. And if we don't have the answers,
and leave those questions in the DMs, and we're gonna definitely try to get to y'all. And for schools, how should it run economically through the community, in your opinion? Like how should the school be a function of social mobility to make the environment good, to uplift the environment, to make it better?
Well, one, you have to sit with these children and do a very strong diagnosis of where they're coming from.
Definitely.
What's going on with them. Right. This, where they psychological is.
No doubt.
That's like putting all in the children in a room together, and if you don't really sit down and get at least one chance to have a little one-on-one with them, even if it's just for a couple of minutes, you won't really understand them. Growing up, it was kids around us in the same class that, had autism. They didn't know what autism was. So they took these kids out of our class and threw them in special ed.
No doubt.
They're crazy. they're dumb, they're retarded. They don't, they didn't understand what was going on with that child.
Right.
The effects of their brain matter, and saying, okay, it's a spectrum. Now they just catching on to it because I guess it affects them now.
No doubt.
But when it didn't affect them, it didn't matter.
No doubt.
They had resource rooms.
Yeah, definitely.
They went special ed or resource.
Yeah.
You get in a resource room, they'll take you out your classroom for 30 minutes every day or once a week. However it was, they scheduled for and said you need a resource.
Right.
And now they said if you was too excited, you had to go to special ed. But not understanding that hyperactive and all these things, ADD, they wasn't
Attention
studying
deficit disorder.
They wasn't studying these things back then. They really didn't care because it didn't affect them. That's how I felt.
Right. Right. So do you feel, because I feel this way, about overcrowded classrooms where there's too many students to one teacher? And, being a fact, what you think about more teachers in our schools that look like us as minorities? Do you think that should be step one to help solving some of the problems in our school system? We should see somebody exactly like us, like our aunt, like our uncle, like our father.
When you do see somebody that looks like you can relate to them.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, I would like to see more of that.
I would definitely like to see more of that. And one of my personal goals was to be a teacher myself. That's why I went to college for, to try to get into these schools and make a difference. But the overcrowdedness of these schools, and based on percentages, it is weird because they know exactly where your son or daughter as a student is going. So if they go to an elementary school at the corner, they know it's an 80% chance that person will attend this junior high school. They know it's a 50% chance that it would attend this high school over there. And they know that these all three schools only graduate a population about 20% of the students out the school.
So you're saying
right,
elementary, middle school, high school.
High school. So they know exactly what pipeline your child.
And then they make you do an SAT to say this is the college you're going to.
Right.
What let me ask you a question. Since we're going through all that, and say the SAT, what college you going to? Why they created SATs?
I mean, SAT stand for standardized tests. And most of the times when they standardize the test, it's based on a different demographic of children, which would be white 16-year-old kids. Do you understand? So that's why when a lot of black students take these tests, the language seems different because they speak a different language in their neighborhood. So when they get to the school and they study in standardized English, or what I would call white history, they have very complicated issues as resolving those answers. They do one-shot thinking. A lot of our kids do what I call one-shot thinking, right? Which is if they don't know the answer to a particular question, they will ask the teacher, what's the answer? Instead of looking for the answer or deriving to the answer or looking key points in that sentence to get the answer, they will always ask the answer. So they develop what we call one-shot thinking, which is they don't look to get the answer. They try to memorize the answer. And that's the problem, with a lot of our students in the school. We do a lot of one-shot thinking in our schools, so we don't remember a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because there is actually a course that you go through to derive to an answer. It's like mathematics, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You have to break down the problem.
Right. So those standardized tests are specifically for a certain demographic of kids, and this is why we have a problem with those tests.
Listen, even with science, they say the hypothesis is an educated question.
Yeah, it's educated guess.
But I didn't think any question was a bad question because you don't know.
Right.
So how could you say educated?
No.
Because that puts a stipulation on it. Yeah, that's how I feel.
To me, educated is a system. To me, as people, we want to be more intelligent or have intellect. Do you understand? Or be smart. To me, when you say you're educated, you're running yourself through a system. You understand? And when you run yourself through the system, it tends to deculturize you. You understand? So you cannot be African and slave at the same time. That's what I call it. You understand? Because for you to be faithful to the educational system, you have to give up a lot of your African identity or your African history. So if you got an accent, you have to clear that accent up to be prosperous or successful in the educational system. Yeah.
Well, did you know the first educational system, or did you know the first college, let me say, came from Africa?
Yeah, definitely.
In Africa,
No,
schooling.
We know that. We had halls in colleges all in Africa. Whether you go to West Africa, whether you go to, you know, even if you go to Egypt, a lot of people, you know, like to glorify Egypt. You know, they had tons of colleges.
I think the name of the college was Timbuktu, right?
Yes, Timbuktu Ben had a society building buildings and all types of stuff before Christopher Columbus even sailed around the world and actually thought the world was flat. Timbuktu was built.
So how you feel the world is?
Huh?
How you feel the world is?
I feel like the world is round. I mean, you're gonna try to stick on school, but
no, it is school
because they do have a map in school that all your students look at and all your children out there look at. It's called a Mercator's map. That's the map that they pull down in history class.
We are sticking on school because everything that we're learning right now is 360 degrees.
Yes.
360 degrees is a circle.
No doubt. No doubt.
Within the schooling, it's all one circle of life. It's just that they want to give you the life that they want you to lead.
Definitely.
And it's a sense of control.
No doubt.
If you break it down, it's a sense of control. So now with education, you only have, when you become an adult, with education, you only have two roads you can follow. Believe it or not. You have two systems, the military system or the penitentiary system.
And the school system. So
the school, but the school, as you become an adult, schooling is just, they educated you to go either way. Because now as an adult, you have to make a decision. And, you know, a lot of people say, I'm not in school no more, but they still are.
Well, a lot of people will also think that education also educates you into a system of jobs, all right? So when you graduate, all you think about is getting a job, right? You don't graduate from college thinking I need to open up my own business. I mean, there's a lot of people out there with business degrees that don't own their own business, or never even gave it a shot.
They running somebody else's business.
Right, so
but
that's the whole goal.
That's still similar to a military structure. Because we don't run the military. When we come in, we look for a job. And if we can't get the job that we desire, some people say, okay, I'm going into the military. Or school is not for me. Because they don't want to go to college, so they go into the military. That's why I said, and it touches a point, we go into the next two phases, which is either military or penitentiary.
Now, no doubt, all of it is a web, right? That's the way the structure is built. It's a web. They have a beginning and an ending to it, right? And it's all interconnected. But what do you think we should do as far as the older people and the younger people in general involved in schools in our community to bridge that gap? How do you think we do that? Like, where do we start?
Well,
how do we go about it when it comes to our schools?
Where do we start? Right now we starting for ourselves.
Okay, podcast.
The podcast, the culture. Okay. We bridging the gap between the elders and the youth. And you know, I have this saying that I always heard when I was younger.
Right.
Youth is wasted on the young. A lot of people say, "Oh, you old,"
right?
But they got to realize they got to get there as well.
No doubt.
So you know, it's instead of building walls, we got to build more bridges.
We got to build more bridges, and it starts with us. So my answer to, you know, helping, you know, bridge that gap between older and younger people with schools specifically, I think we should start outside the school. It starts in the home. It starts in our community centers. It starts on a block. I don't care what you're doing on a block, somebody teaching you something. So school and knowledge starts out there before you get into the school.
And just remember, somebody's always watching you. So pay attention to your surroundings and what's going on, because education is infinite. Education is everywhere, like he said. Even just standing on the corner, you're educating somebody. And you might not be educating them in a positive role, but you're still educating them.
Yeah, because I know people that learn mathematics in the streets. I know people that learn reading in the streets.
And what I mean by you not educating them positive, since they might see you doing something that's negative or you feel is negative. So, you know, to somewhat wrap this up, this is the Kultcha. You can find us on Instagram, DA_KULTCHA.
Yo, I'm Twin.
I'm Alley Cat.
And this is the Kultcha, and we bridging that gap, y'all.
Bridges and walls are built by the same material.
That's right. And we making sure you can walk on the bridge, talk on the bridge, and make it all the way to the end. The Kultcha. Peace.
If you build a wall, you kill it.
Everything is a culture, love hurts, why hate. Everything is a culture, love hurts, why hate.